Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. I have a relatively new crew tonight working together for the first time. We got Big Mike and we got KR Lombardia. Before I introduce them both, I just want to let everybody know that 108 Stitches Baseball Talk is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room is one way to do it. Or send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, just call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter @TribuneSouth. Candy Ebeling is behind the scenes. And I have a new book coming out in a few weeks. And that book is called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. And that will coincide with the launch of the Motor City Mad Mouse show, where they'll both be released simultaneously. All right. With that said, I have a good crew here on tonight. Big Mike, welcome back, partner.
Good evening, everybody.
And KR Lombardia. I've only known you forever, KR.
Good evening. How's everybody?
Yeah, well, that's okay. It's a good thing there, KR. All right, and good evening, George Eichhorn. Glad you can be on here in the chat room. Good stuff. All right, a few topics to get to, so we'll go in rapid fire. I know KR Lombardia has some good Bruce Bochy stories, but let me paint the picture first. Bruce Bochy, 68, is now 6-0 in Game 7s. Dusty Baker, the 74, and he is now 0-4 in Game 7s. But Dusty Baker's record is 2,183 and 1862 in regular season action. He won a World Series in 2022, and he finishes his Astros tenure at 320 and 226. All right, Karen, I'm going to lead it off with you. You said you have a pretty good, funny Bruce Bochy story?
Yeah, Bruce Bochy caught at Brevard Community College. And I coached at HCC, Hillsborough Community College, some years ago. And before I was there from Brevard, and Lou Garcia was head coach at HCC at the time, and he told me this story. And they had a bench clearing brawl at Brevard. And Bochy's not a little guy, if you look at him. And they had a bench clearing brawl, and Bobby Perez, bless his soul, he got killed in a car accident some years ago. Was a catcher at HCC. This is 1976, I think. And they had a bench clearing brawl, and Bobby picked up Bochy and body slammed him on home plate in the middle of that fight. And Bochy was taken out of the field and did not play the rest of the game. But he's a hell of a manager, I'll tell you that. He does things the old-fashioned way. I don't think he listens to analytics as much as some of these younger managers do, and they're going to be tough to beat in the series.
All right, let me talk about some numbers here that we can put on Bruce Bochy. He's the first manager to win the LCS with 3 different teams. He did it in 1998. Okay, with the San Diego Padres. He did it with the Giants in 2010. 12, 14, nothing like the old even number theme. And now with the Rangers in 2023. Boy, you talk about a clutch postseason manager. My goodness. So, and George Eichhorn has a very good comment on that, where he actually spoiled the World Series in Detroit in 2012, and he's a great manager, no doubt about that. So with that said, Big Mike, take it from there.
Well, I think the biggest thing about Bochy is he lets his players do their thing. He doesn't micromanage his team into the ground. He doesn't go, you know what, even if the analytics say it, he goes by gut. He goes by how his players are telling him they feel. I think that's something that gets lost in the shuffle with some of the new management, is I think they're so beholden sometimes to the statistics and to the analytics. They don't go with their gut. Bochy's the reverse opposite. Bochy's one of the old school. Bochy's going to tell his guys what he wants out of them. He expects them to perform. And if they're not playing, no matter what the statistics say as far as who should play when. It's nice to see. And yeah, you want to talk about clutch. The guy's clutch in Game 7s. When you're undefeated in a Game 7 format, that doesn't happen. I mean, look at the opposite side. right now, Dusty Baker can't buy a Game 7 win for himself. So it's great to see. It was a tough one to see one of them go out, because those are two guys. If you're a baseball purist, having either one of those guys in the World Series, great. You'd like to have them square off against each other, but having Bochy in there is going to be great. And whoever comes off the other side, they just need to know that Arizona's playing with house money, and Bochy knows it. Bochy's going to have that clubhouse so loose and so ready to go and just to go out and play ball that it's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how they match up against either one of the two teams that are playing right now.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, Bochy's, you talk about the ultimate postseason manager. This guy is really, really it. I mean, think about it. You're able to have that much success in the postseason, like I just alluded to, says a lot about the guy. All right, so with that said, let's talk about the legacy of Dusty Baker, Mike.
Yeah. Dusty Baker, I got to say, I grew up, as you saw in the previous podcast, I grew up an A's fan, but you can't not like the guy. Even when he was with the Giants, you just could not like the guy. The way he holds himself, the way he was no nonsense, the way he's a player's manager. And if you were a player of the game and you loved the game, then you had no choice but to at least respect the guy. And watching him break the hearts in the Bay, I remember so many Bay Area series between, and he just like Bochy, he inspires his guys to do the things they need to do to win the game. So regardless of who your allegiance is to, he's one of those managers that will go down as the greatest. I mean, everybody's going to remember the toothpick. And if you're my generation, one of the things you're going to remember is his son almost getting ran over at home plate. That's something that goes hand in hand with him. But Dusty Baker, a class act, and it'll be interesting to see if he sticks around and goes and comes back next year, or if this is where the tenure ends.
Well, as George Eichhorn mentioned, just here, I'm going to put this comment up there because it's really good. As you talk about a great ambassador to the sport, there's no doubt about it. I think he got a raw deal when he was with Washington, to be honest with you. But I'm glad he was able to win a championship as a manager last year. He took a situation, KR Lombardia. We talk about the issues they had with sign stealing and all that, and AJ Hinch and all that fallout. And he took a situation that was so difficult and smoothed it out as well as you could. So with that thought, KR Lombardia.
Well, being a longtime friend of Tony La Russa, it's hard for me to like Dusty Baker.
Okay.
I mean, I've known Tony since I was a little boy. His sister worked for my dad at the bank, and both his first cousins are very, very, very good friends of mine. Hard for me to cheer for Dusty Baker. And I'll leave it at that.
And I will add one thing to that, and that's funny. I have friends who are La Russa fans that say the exact same thing. But the one thing about Baker I have to absolutely get him credit for is, like you said, he walked into a complete S show about what he was handed over. But for him to straighten out the ship the way he did and basically said, look, we're doing it my way or the highway. And if you guys don't like it, then we're going to have to figure something out, because the way the league and everybody else in Major League Baseball looked at that team when it was taken over was some people called him crazy for going to do it, that he had nothing to prove and there was no reason for him to walk into that environment. But that's just
he's an old guy, Mike. He's an old guy. He's not going to he probably doesn't believe in this new bullshit that excuse my language, that the analytics and all that. He coaches from the seat of his pants like Tony does, and Lou Piniella and Casey Stengel and Ralph Houk and all the old guys. You coach for the seat of your pants. The analytics is a bunch of crap.
Well, and that's what that team needed. That's exactly what that team needed. Yeah. That team needed a guy who is like you said, no BS, to go in and right the ship. Because if he couldn't do it, honestly, I don't think you can say there's a manager in the game that could have walked into that and had any better success than Baker did by taking over the Astros.
No.
It's amazing, KR. I like the names you brought out. How many people even know who Ralph Houk and Lou Piniella? Well, we know Lou Piniella, but Ralph Houk.
I'm an old man.
Oh,
God, I'm an old man.
I'm not that much further behind than you are.
1951. I remember the '60 Yankees losing to the Pirates. I remember Mazeroski's home run like it was yesterday. So I'm an old guy.
Yeah, I like the fact that you were able to incorporate Casey Stengel into that too. I mean, but that's the way a lot of these guys did things. It really, really, really is. So I don't know. All I can tell you is Jim Crane made a heck of a hire when he brought in Dusty Baker, and the way he smoothed things down in Houston was nothing short of remarkable in itself. So, All right, well, we're going to talk about another managerial subject, and this one's really interesting too, but it's very predictable, and if it happens, it's a good move, okay? That there's a report that Buck Showalter is in consideration for the Angels managerial opening. Okay, well, you're out in California. Big Mike, what do you think of that?
I mean, that's almost the no-brainer, to be honest with me. I mean, you want somebody that's going to go in and give you instant credibility in the clubhouse. Showalter's the one to do it. I do think it's a move that is twofold. He's great if you're actually going to try and make a charge and actually do something with the roster you have. If you're going to keep Ohtani, you're going to keep Trout, you're going to keep these guys and try and really make a push. He's also the guy, though, if you decide that, hey, it's open season and it's going to be a fire sale, we're going to bring people in, he can go ahead and take care of a young group and a rebuild as well. So to me, it's kind of a no-brain hire. So whether he does the job there and helps them try and make a push with what they have and add a few pieces, or if they do go into rebuild mode and they're going to bring new guys in, he's the guy that basically, I don't want to call him the safe bet, but he's a sure thing kind of in my book as far as what they're looking for.
Well, Mike, you make a great point there. So let me expand on that. First of all, what few people realize is that Buck Showalter built the Arizona Diamondbacks from scratch, and Bob Brenly got the championship. So if there's anybody that knows how to turn things around or get them fixed, Buck Showalter. We all know that what happened with the Mets, I think, to me, was a joke. I'm not going to go into any more detail than that. But Buck Showalter, so many people have to understand the work that he did with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And if you don't know, then you might want to Google up what he did there. Carol Lombardia.
Well, I'm a Buck Showalter fan because I'm a Mississippi State guy.
There you
and
go.
Bucks, believe it or not, talk about Rafael Palmeiro and Will Clark. The greatest hitter in Mississippi State history was Buck Showalter. I think he's a hell of a manager. You can be in bad situations. Joe Torre was never respected till he went to the Yankees. Then all of a sudden he's one of the greatest managers of all time. Well, he sucked when he was with the Braves, right? But
Right.
I think you got to be in the right place at the right time. And I think Buck's a hell of a manager. He knows the game. The Mets situation was shaky. I mean, it was, injuries and things like that. So anybody that hires Buck, I think I wish the Yankees would hire Buck back. I'm a Yankee fan. I'd love to see him come back. I can't stand Aaron Boone. I think he's a terrible manager. I think Cashman's a terrible general manager. But,
I was just about to say,
I think Buck will do
Cashman's a
really
big
well
problem.
in L.A.
Well, and to even go further with that, with Showalter, it's one of those things that you get that instant credibility. Well, and the bonus is, like you were saying, with the Diamondback situation, Luis Gonzalez actually in an interview after the World Series said this was Buck's team, that Buck put this together, that we are only here because Buck did this for us. So that's just, he's got a proven track record. And the Mets thing,
He's a good
I think
baseball man.
and I think the Mets thing is more of a unfortunate circumstance. Did he get injured? He had injuries. I think at a certain point, the front office kind of just abandoned them and kind of left him as basically the scapegoat for everything that was going wrong. Do I think he made great choices sometimes? No, but that's him he was trying to do everything he could to right that ship. And in the end, the Mets are sinking whether Showalter's there or not right now. They have more problems than their general manager. I mean, than a manager. The front office of the Mets needs to get their head around, hey, just because you want to pay guys and come up with a big payroll doesn't mean they're going to win ball games. They have to fit the system.
Well, look what's happening. The best teams with the best records aren't in the finals.
Yeah.
Baseball's crazy.
And we touched on that. I really do think, Scott, I really think something needs to be said for the point we talked on a couple weeks ago, that Major League Baseball needs to take a good hard look at the playoff schedule and stop penalizing these teams that are rolling going into the playoffs, but making them have such a long layoff and completely killing any momentum they have.
Well, I'm old enough to remember when the American League champion played the National League champion in 7 games in a World Series, and none of this playoff garbage.
Well, I mean,
the
you
best
say
team
that.
in either league plays 7 games to the finals. I'm not sure that shouldn't be that way. I don't know.
Well, let me point this out. You are right, Carol Lombardi. I wish Brian Cashman would have considered Buck Showalter to bring him back with the Yankees. I really did. Then again, a lot of people wonder about Don Mattingly if he ever gets there. Time will tell. I think Don would do well with the Yankees, knowing that he has more talent to work with. Go back to Eichhorn again. And, Buck is 19th all-time wins by an MLB skipper. So pretty hard to argue against credibility of Buck Showalter. Good points, George, all the way around. So, all right, so let's talk about the fact that Bob Melvin is now leaving the San Diego Padres to the San Francisco Giants, returning to the Bay Area. Tell me why I wasn't surprised, considering that there have been discussions since the offseason that he would actually be considering a move from San Diego. So, all right, Mike, I'll tell you all these California topics tonight. My goodness. So
just in the wheelhouse. Just
stay
in my
with the
wheelhouse.
flow.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about Bob Melvin in the Bay Area?
Absolutely love him. I really think the only reason he left and went to San Diego and basically just hung everything up in Oakland was it was just untenable. At some point, you got to cut your losses. He didn't want to leave the game. He didn't want to take a step back. He didn't want to step out of the game. The San Diego job opened itself up. It's still in California. He loves being on the West Coast. So I think that was just the pit stop. And to be honest, I'm very happy for the Giants. You know, Bob Melvin, I think, is one of those guys, that can do things from a managerial standpoint and lead a team in any way, fashion, or shape. So if you're in a rebuild, he can take care of the rebuild, get the young guys to get the most out of them. If you have a rostered team of vets, he can get the most out of them. I think the Giants are in kind of a semi-rebuild. I don't think they've ever gotten to the full real rebuild part, and that's kind of confusing to me, is I don't think over the last few years, anybody who's a Giants fan could have looked at that roster and said, hey, we are definitely a championship contender. I think it's time for them to either take a step back and say, hey, we need to start building. And their farm system, because we have it here in Sacramento with the River Cats, their farm system's great. So I think there's some gems they can pull up, but I do think Bob Melvin is definitely a great hire for the Giants, and I think we can expect good things from him in the Bay once again.
Well, you know, Brian Sabian is the general manager of the Giants, and he's not a Tampa guy, but he coached at the University of Tampa. He played at Eckerd. In fact, he played when I was coaching in college, and he's a pretty sharp guy. And give him a lot of credit for what their success was years ago. And I think that Brian is smart enough to understand that Bob Melvin's a good manager. And I think that Brian's a sharp enough guy to understand how to win. You know, he was an ex-Yankee. He worked with the Yankee organization. And I know Brian. I haven't seen him in many years, but he's really a good baseball guy. One of the better baseball men in baseball today. And I think that they'll come back. You know, the cap and everything else hinders you. But I think that Brian can work around that, and I think the Giants will be back.
Well, you got to remember the Giants are an organization that's won 3 championships in the Bruce Bochy era. So it's not like they don't know how to win. And you still have the architect, Brian Sabian, there. And now Bob Melvin, you know, he took the San Diego job to get out of Oakland, and the Padres are willing to spend money. So I thought he could do something with him. And for last year, he did. This year, unfortunately, things didn't work out as well as he had hoped. But now he goes back to the Bay Area where they're very familiar with him. So all he did was go from one end of the Bay to the other. So
Scott, don't you think that baseball is so delicate when you build a team that you could, Mike's nodding his head, that you could make one little mistake and not get to the playoffs and not win it. To me, it's very delicate. It wasn't that way 40 years ago, but it is now.
No question about it. And you know why, KR, that factors that way? We're talking about not only the fact that there's such a focus on analytics, but we're also talking about the rule changes that you have that have incorporated. We all know that the rule changes, such as the pitch clock, the mound visits, and the list, and the ghost runner, and all these other things that there makes it even more delicate to back up your point, KR.
That crap with the second runner on second at the 10th inning. This isn't slow pitch softball.
I was going to say the same thing. I really want to know if the guy who actually proposed that was somebody one of these weekend warrior execs in Major League Baseball and said, hey, you know what? In my slow pitch league, to make sure we don't go over time,
exactly,
and the umpires don't have to stay late, we don't have to stay late past the time the bar is going to serve us our first round of beers, we have a runner on second to start it. Because that's literally where first time I heard that, I was like, somebody went to a slow pitch tournament this weekend and thought, I'm going to throw it out there, and it stuck.
I was talking that today with a good friend of mine who plays slow pitch softball, but he's a baseball purist like I am. He's my age. And he goes, "What kind of crap is this?"
Right.
It's stupid. I like to speed up rules, but
Yeah.
as a pitching coach in college, my pitchers work fast. This time limit would have never affected us. We work fast. We work very fast. But this stuff on the second base, I mean, just it's stupid. It
Ghost
doesn't make
runner,
sense to me.
to me, is laughable. I hate the rule. I can't believe they had it this year. It's like, give me a break. I understand why you did it before to protect arms and all that, but I will never, no matter what I want to say, adapt to the ghost runner. And the fact that you put it in the terms of slow pitch softball makes it more comical. But by the same token, it's not only comical, KR and Mike. What it really is it puts baseball in perspective that, you know what, let's not be the NBA where we have to have an in-season tournament to make it interesting, okay? Because,
Right.
I don't have a problem
That's
with.
another stupid.
Oh, that's a
Well,
whole
I'm with
other.
you, KR. Are you kidding? I'm really with you. All these stupid gimmicks just to try to keep things interesting. Play the game the right way. You want to have the players' attitudes where there's no low management. Just do things the right way instead of looking for gimmicks to try to keep your interest. I mean, now don't get me wrong with the NBA, and I don't want to get too far into the NBA. I don't have a problem with them having, a tournament at the end for the last two playoff spots, one or two games. I got no problem because then you keep more and more people interested in that. But that's as far as I would go. This play, but no, I'm with you. The ghost runner and slow pitch softball, KR, appropriately to me,
Needs to go.
really what this is all about. Mike, anything you want to add to that?
Well, unfortunately, you know what it goes with? It's the generation of the attention span. The problem
Right.
is the attention span in people from 20 to 35 isn't what it is with people who are 35 and over. So they're
Right.
trying to grab this attention span generation and get ball games shorter. They're trying to, you want to get out in 10 innings. It's just, to me, the game is what it is because of what it is, not because of the changes, not because you need to adapt to society. The game has lasted for as long as it has without the changes. So why now? No, it's society that's changing. The game doesn't need to change to keep up with it because baseball purists, the fans that are going to spend the actual money for these games and all the memorabilia are going to call back to how the game was, not how the game became. So, yeah, I don't like it. I'm not that old, but I call myself crotchety when it comes to changing the games that I love.
Well, I never saw the Marichal Spawn game where 1 through 230 pitches, 1 through 240 pitches or whatever it was. But I would love to see that game today. And I didn't see it when I was a kid. It wasn't on TV. But I remember reading about it and go, wow, they went 14 innings and Marichal and Spawn didn't have relief pitchers. Can you imagine that today? Those guys' arms would fall off.
Well, and it's the one-off. That's the thing about it is this rule only applies to the game. What do we get? 1 or 2 games a year that went past 12 innings? And I get that we're in the age of, hey, you want your best athletes rested. You don't want them hurt. But you know what? These guys, I will say it. I'm not the popular opinion. These guys are being paid millions and millions of dollars. They're going to have some risk. Right. There's some risk associated with playing the game. If you get into a game where you have to exhaust everybody, I mean, hey, how many times growing up did you have fun watching them bring an outfielder in and have to pitch for an inning? I love that. I loved when they had to have a position player finish out the game because they had nobody left. That was as silly as I ever wanted the game to get, and we've taken that to the next level by having the ghost runner.
Well, let's just take it to another point. I coached
Summer League in Tampa, Big League, which is an extension of Little League, where you could only pitch your pitchers so many innings. And in Florida, we have a lot of rainouts. So we got to a point where we had a bunch of games one week, and I ran out of pitching, and I'd throw outfielders. Can you throw – well, they had pitched a little bit in high school, but they weren't going to pitch in summer ball. Because in summer ball, you have the best pitchers playing on your team. But we ran out of pitchers. If you have 4 or 5, you're in good shape. Well, you need 6 or 7 when it's raining. So I'm bringing my outfitters in, and we're playing 17, 16 games. Just throw it over the plate, and hope to God we outlast them at the plate. But today's they don't. It's just a different game today.
Yeah, the thing that I really miss. Well, I'm with you all the way. The thing that I really miss about today's baseball is a lack of complete games. I really thought the complete game, the way I've always Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, but here's the thing: complete games. What few people understand is they take the pressure off your relievers, is what they do with every 4 or 5 days. And we all know that Billy Martin may have worn out a lot of arms, but I'm going to tell you one thing: I still have always loved Billy Martin as a manager. I really, really have. So
that was Art
games.
Fowler. Art Fowler was his pitching coach, and I think Art's an old guy, and he didn't believe that you could hurt your arm. If and that's what happened. And I think the guys don't throw enough fastballs today. They throw too much breaking stuff. And in the old days, they would throw more fastballs. Fastballs don't hurt your arm. The curveballs hurt your arm. And making your arm stronger by throwing more fastballs. And I think that's what happened with them.
Yeah, you're right in the sense that the thing that's gone, and KR, you'll speak to this as well as anybody. The thing that's gone is the control guys, the guys that paint the corners, top to bottom, left to right, in and out. The guys that actually
the catfish hunters. Yes,
Maddox, Glavin, these guys that used to just literally throw it. Hey, they may not have had the super nuke arm, but they're going to paint every corner and keep you guessing with that.
Greg Maddox,
yeah,
my favorite. Greg Maddox, probably. Well. Greg Maddox, Tom Seaver. Seaver threw a lot of fastballs. Greg Maddox, Tom Seaver, Catfish Hunter. I saw Catfish Hunter in person in the bullpen. I've never seen anybody throw strikes like I saw Catfish Hunter from 3 feet away watching him in the bullpen in St. Petersburg one day. It was amazing. He would throw 9 straight sliders on the corner. Fran Healy was catching. And he never moved his mitt. 9 straight. He'd go inside fastball, put his mitt and never move his mitt. But he only threw about 88, 89 miles an hour, but on the black.
Yeah.
Or 3 or 4 inches off the black. And they called them strikes.
So George Eichner makes a great point in the chat room, KR. The Ghost Runner is wrecking the baseball history and record books. Let's preface that thing, record books. Okay, didn't mean to cut you off, but that was a good quote there from George. You guys care to comment on at least the record books part of that whole thing?
Well, and that's the hard part now. So what do you do as far as wins? So let's say a pitcher is just a fortunate guy. Let's say a guy gets 6-7 wins a year by having the Ghost Runner on second. So it kind of comes down to, how do you weight it? And the problem is in the record books, there's just no way to do it. To me, it's a different generation. Like we say, hey, I truthfully, if we're going to go that route, we'd have to go ahead and now start going ahead and giving more weight to guys that do pitch complete games going forward, which you're not going to see much of because everybody's on a 6-7 inning limit. But if it does weight the record books one way, it'll have to weight it the other. So unfortunately, there will be no discerning between the two. But somebody who's a baseball purist will always know the difference that, hey, this guy may got 5-6 wins a year with a guy standing on second base in the 10th inning.
Okay, fair enough. All right, one more topic to get to. What could be a better World Series? Texas against Philadelphia, Texas against Arizona. We'll lead off with you, Mike.
To me, I think we're in for a treat either way. I want to see Harper in the World Series. I'm that guy. I like Bryce Harper. I think he's an amazing talent. I always like seeing him light up the screen. But I will tell you from a sense of, hey, let's have some fun baseball. 2 teams playing with house money. Neither team a couple of weeks ago you would have said had any chance, I wish I could have gone back right now in my DeLorean and put some money down on both of those teams right now because they're playing with house money. You got to love it. You're going to have Bochy that's going to have his guys up and ready to go. The Diamondbacks are going to be coming back from a 0-2 deficit against probably what was the team that was absolutely rolling. And then you go back to the Rangers. The Rangers go into the postseason. They win 7 games in a row without losing a game. They got down. It looked like Houston was going to step on their neck. That Altuve 3-run bomb, I thought was the demise of the Rangers. So I give them every bit of credit for coming back from that. So I don't know. I don't know if you can pick a bad World Series or pick a bad matchup for the Rangers in this one. I think whoever gets there, the Rangers with Garcia, the kid's hot as anybody in baseball right now. The Phillies, you've got the star power. You've got Harper leading the charge. And then the Diamondbacks are the team that, just were out of nowhere. I mean, if you're an Arizona fan, I've talked to some Arizona fans, they saw the possibility of this. But I don't think a couple weeks ago you could even tell yourself that we'd be questioning what would be a better series, the Rangers versus the Phils or the Rangers versus the D-backs. It's going to be a great series regardless.
Okay, Kara, what do you think?
Mike's right on. I like to see the Phillies. Because they swing the bat so well.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them against Rangers. Yankees aren't in it, so I really don't care. But no, I'd like to see the Phillies get in there.
Yeah, well, it doesn't hurt that the Phillies are also training in Clearwater in your neck of the woods either. So, you ever
I
get
don't
to
care
the?
about that.
Oh, you don't? Oh, that's right.
No, I only care about one team, Scott. I care about the Yankees. I don't care about anybody else.
That's okay. That's fair
I'm
enough.
sorry. I've been that way since I was a little boy.
Well, you should. I mean, let's face the reality. Now that the Yankees train in Tampa, it only helps your enthusiasm. You can see them.
Well, no, it goes back. My grandfather was a big Yankee fan, but my grandfather was also best friends with Al Lopez. And
all right.
Cleveland. My grandparents went to the 54 series with the Giants and the Indians. And my grandfather told Al, he goes, I will cheer for you every time except when you play the Yankees. And they were great friends. And I was raised a Yankee fan since I was a little boy. So, just the way it is.
Okay, we have an update. Bottom of the fifth, 3-2, Arizona, the Diamondbacks. All right. Well, I can tell you right now, I am mixed on this because I was actually living in Arizona when they beat your Yankees during 9/11.
I know. Luis Gonzalez, a Tampa boy, who I know, hit the ball up the middle and win the game. It killed me.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Lewis's mother's a friend of ours. Well, she was. She passed away a couple of years ago. Yeah. Tampa people, we're very close. Baseball community in Tampa, Scott, as you probably know, is very, very close. Everybody knows everybody. McCullers, everybody knows everybody.
I will go on the record and say if the Diamondbacks win, the only way I'll root for the Diamondbacks is if they make Gurriel cut off his troll hair. I'm sorry. I hate every time that dude's helmet comes off and I see the purple hair come out. Call me a hater. Call me an old man. For some reason, it's like watching Altuve run around the bases. There's just something about it that irks me. And I'm just like, if he gets the Yankees memo and he cuts his hair off, then maybe I could root for the Diamondbacks. But until then, if the Diamondbacks Rangers come up, I'm going for Garcia and the Rangers all the way.
Well, the Phillies all have those guys with the long hair. I can't stand it either. It looks terrible.
Well, like I said,
got to play for the Yankees. Old man George Steinbrenner would say, "You can't play for us. It's got your hair."
Yeah, no, I remember that. Yeah, I really remember that.
Johnny Damon,
I think that's what got Dick Hauser fired too, wasn't it? Because he didn't even care. But apparently, there are a lot of things, and I won't get into Dick Hauser, although I do make a reference in my book. But having lived in Arizona, there's a piece of me that does want the Diamondbacks to do really well. We'll address it next week. On next week's show, we'll just put that little teaser out there that we will readdress the Arizona Diamondback situation one way or the other. So one thing I really love doing is having an entirely different crew. And this to me has been an awful lot of fun. You think of KR Lombardi, just to let you know, Mike, okay, him and I worked together when I was with the Tampa Tribune and I covered his team, and he has some pretty good ball clubs out there. We've been friends for over 40 years, man, this guy. And now to bring you on, I think it's been a lot of fun to bring in. So kudos to George Eichhorn for being a heavy contributor in the chat room. So house money, really, Mike, is what you said. You have two teams that are on house money. Bear in mind, we can't lose sight of the fact that the Rangers were in last place a couple of years ago, I believe. Yeah. So they had a very atrocious record. But when you go out there and you develop younger players and you add key pieces, Chris Young is their general manager. John Daniels contribute a lot. Now you have the end result. But I will mention one thing about the Rangers, though, and that's this. How is Jerry Jones thinking that, I've been in the Super Bowl for a long time, right? But meanwhile, my neighbor here in Arlington, the Texas Rangers are going there, and Jimmy Johnson didn't walk in there at all to turn it around. But meanwhile, the Texas Rangers are across the parking lot, with a chance to win it all. Jerry, you might want to call your MLB neighbor and get some pointers.
But I will add. Okay, sorry, Scott.
No, that's okay. So how interesting is that, though, Mike? That the Rangers in Arlington, probably a few hundred yards away, right? Because that's probably what it is, with a shot to play Arizona or Philly, because it's not final yet. Unbelievable, isn't it?
It's awesome. I will say I got to give one shout out to one guy who has impressed me throughout the year, and the fact that he chose to go to the Rangers is Seager. Because when Seager made the choice to go to the Rangers, everybody thought he was nuts. Everybody looked at that situation and said, what are you thinking? You can get more money other places. You can go to more higher profile teams. And just the way they interviewed him last night, and he said, hey, there was something about it when Bochy and I talked, in which I talked to the GMs here and I talked to everybody around the team. There was a buzz and they were rebuilding and I wanted to be part of it. So I got to give Seager a lot of credit because he's been a big part of the turnaround in Texas this year.
Where's he from, though, Mike?
I honestly,
where's he from?
Well, let me guess. Is Seager from Florida?
I don't know. I don't know.
I honestly, I don't know where Seager's from.
I think it has a lot to do with people, they play. Glasnow's talking about here in Tampa that he does not want to leave Tampa, for some reason. And he's not from here. But I think some people fall in love with the area they live in, and that has a lot to do with it. You almost take a little bit of a pay cut to live where you enjoy living. Yeah. And I'm a living example of that. I can tell you that. I'm not going to get into it now, but I can tell you that some people don't move from where they're from. I'm fourth generation Floridian. For me to move from here would have been something. And, it has something to be said about that.
Well, I mean, most of my years are Metro Detroit, but I can tell you right now that I've been in Florida probably 25, 30 years of my life. So
I wouldn't want to live in Detroit either.
Well,
I was going to say that narrows down the population.
I will say this. I'm proud of my hometown. It's helped me become what I am. But by the same token, I really established roots here in South Florida and a couple of years out in the Tampa area. I love the warm weather, and I also like no state income tax either. So it doesn't hurt either.
You had to rub that in, really?
Oh, come on, Big Mike. I know it's a little expensive out your neck of the woods, but that's okay, Mike.
Well, Scott, you got to get me on what I really, really, really love, which is college football.
Okay. Well, you know
That's
what?
my first love.
Okay. I'm going to work on that. I probably could.
That in college baseball.
Well, you know what?
I'm not a big pro baseball guy.
Well, I'll tell you what. I got an idea. If you're willing to do 2 shows in one night, I might be able to get you on a football show one time. What do you think, KR?
It's college football, buddy. I'm watching Western Kentucky and Liberty right now as we're speaking.
Yeah, we do a combination.
I'll watch anybody in college football.
We do a combination, KR, of pro and college. Would you be game for that?
Yeah, pro's okay, but I'm a college football guy.
Right,
I'll watch pro.
Let me work on that. Okay, I'm glad you put that message in my ear. Okay, I'll work on that.
I coached football in high school. Remember now, Scott? I coached football for a long time in high school.
Yeah,
So I'm a football guy too.
Don't worry. You're getting on a football show. I'm working on it.
Okay.
And by the way, both you guys are coming on the Motor City Mad Mouse show at some point down the road when I launch it in a few weeks. So we'll get that going. Don't worry. Yeah, you'll be on Inside the Pigskin, KR Lombardia, sooner than you think. It's good that you let me know about that. And Mike, you're going to be all over the map, so it doesn't really matter how this guy. But versatility is what it's all about on my network, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So.
Well, my middle name is Swiss Army, so I figure that works out for me.
Wow, that's cool.
I can only imagine what that stands for. All right, interesting stuff. Covered a lot of interesting ground tonight, and thanks to streaming and technology, Big Mike and KR Lombardia are on with me tonight. The show was 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. So, with that said, let me go over our information one more time. That 108 Stitches Baseball Talk is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room or send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter, @TribuneSouth. Candy Ebling's behind the scenes. My book coming out real shortly is called Learning Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. And that will be coming out, and we'll launch a Motor City Mad Mouse show simultaneously. All right, great show tonight. And I know we'll have more definitive stuff come next Tuesday night when we know what the actual World Series matchup. I should point out that obviously the World Series starts on Friday night. I also want to promote an advance tomorrow. We're going to have No Limits on at, say, around 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to have Jennifer Lee Cobb on with Coach John Bonamago and KR Lombardi. If you happen to be on there, this is a show where we're going to talk about special teams and head injury. So feel free to participate in that if you get on at the chat room. It'll be around 8 o'clock Eastern time, give or take. So I'm really looking forward to this episode because the one thing I really like to do is talk about Parkinson's disease. And I have the right person on there with Jen, who's a former St. Louis Rams cheerleader that has her own nonprofit. And, you know, I work with Muhammad Ali and a lot of people. I know people that have died because of Parkinson's. And this is
I have a good friend that has Parkinson's.
Well, you know what? Well, KR Lombardi, let me ask you a question. I'm just curious. Would you want to come on tomorrow night's show, or do you want to participate in the chat room?
I can't tomorrow. I'm not gonna be home. I'll be away.
Well, that's okay.
But
We'll you can just look at the show afterwards. But you know what? Maybe I'll incorporate you as a future guest on a Wednesday as well on that show. I'm looking with Jen.
Please do me a favor.
I know very little about it.
Just do me a favor.
I know he's got it. He's got a good medication.
There you go. I'm sorry, Mike. What were you saying?
Thank her for doing that. My grandmother passed away from Parkinson's, so I know just how unbelievably a debilitating disorder that is and how bad it is to watch your loved ones go through it. So please thank her. I'm when I saw your guys' last podcast, I meant to mention that. So. Actually,
yeah, Mike, what I'm going to do is you're going to thank her when I invite you on a show with us together. How's that sound? All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Scott, I don't know if you're old enough to remember a guy played linebacker for Tennessee and played for the Miami Dolphins, Frank Emanuel. He's probably in College Hall of Fame. He lives in Tampa. He has Parkinson's, and he has medication that's really working pretty good. But he's 78 years old, so it's starting to, after a certain age, it doesn't really work. It works, but it doesn't work.
Interesting.
So I don't know if you know Frank. He coaches the Bucks, and great, one of the greatest linebackers in college football history. He's got it.
Okay. Well, you know what? Like I said, at some point down the road, KR Lombardi, I'm going to invite you on this show. This is one of my favorite shows. I love all the shows that we have on the network, but there's something about Parkinson's disease. To me, you strike a chord. And any way that I can promote it, and I have the right person with Jen to do it, to me is a great opportunity to make sure we continue to stay on this thing. Because you know what? I don't wish it on anybody. We know recently we did a show where Barry
Mike
Melrose.
can tell you more about it.
What's that?
Mike can tell you about it. His aunt died of it.
Right.
It's horrible.
Well, yeah. The last episode we did with Jen was Mel Farr and I talked about Barry Melrose, and that was a show that got a lot of looks. So, yeah. So, again, this is one of my pet projects, and I have a lot of them. Don't get me wrong, that I am determined as heck to make sure that we take this show as far as we can go. Because anytime you could talk about a disease and bring awareness, and here at the South Florida Tribune, we have a huge presence on Google as well. So these shows, are out there in a lot of different ways to go along with all of our audio and visual partners as well. So great show tonight, but let's make a date. Okay. KR Lombardia and Big Mike for you to come back after 9 o'clock, and KR, I'll talk to you if you want to come on inside the pigskin. I'll make sure there's a fair amount of college so you can blend in with a couple of pro topics. And I will be covering the Miami Hurricanes and the Virginia Cavaliers on Saturday at Hard Rock. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to tell you, I love the Miami Hurricanes. This is the first university.
What they pulled off Saturday was a great game. I can't believe they lost to Georgia Tech.
Yeah,
as long as they don't forget to just take a knee.
Yeah, I had
crystal ball. Come on, Mario.
Don't rub it in. I had to live through it. All right, but I also got to.
I cussed him in Spanish and in English.
Oh, I got to live through the Clemson game too. So you take the good, the bad, and I'll be there on Saturday night with the Canes and the Virginia Cavaliers over at Hard Rock Stadium. So once again,
the Williams kid played pretty good.
What's that?
Kid played pretty good.
Let me tell you,
Williams kid played pretty good at quarterback.
Well,
taking over
Emory
Van
Williams.
Dyke. Williams kid played pretty good.
Yeah, but let me tell you something about Emory Williams, though, KR. This guy here was one of the most polite, congenial kids you'll ever meet. And he's telling every reporter, great question, great question. Every one. I couldn't even come up with I couldn't come up with an over-under, but he's such a nice – Emory Williams is such a great kid.
Good for him. Good for him.
Always nice to see.
Miami's one of my favorites. I'm a Mississippi State guy first, and I'm a Florida and Miami second.
Well, we can handle that. Don't worry. I got now. You sent me a very good message tonight, Carol and Marty. Then again, every time I have you on the air, you always do anyway. So it's a difference. But Emory Williams is going to watch. So all right. Meanwhile, all right, KR, you want to let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
On Facebook.
Facebook and on my shows. Good enough. All right. Yep. All right, Big Mike, go ahead. Let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Same thing on Facebook. Look me up, Big Mike, on Facebook or at X, aka Twitter, whatever you want to call it nowadays, at CalL99. But just here, love being on the show once again, and we'll see you guys soon.
Oh, don't worry, Mike. I got plenty of plans for you. You don't have to worry about that, my friend. Just stay tuned and keep replying to the text messages. So this concludes this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. So on behalf of Big Mike and KR Lombardia, thank you very much for joining us, and we will catch you the next time. Good night, everybody.